We've got some exciting things to talk about. So, as I mentioned, in much of the marketing material that you've seen to register for this workshop, today we're talking about the money method, which is a system that we use at A-Team Fitness to help make nutrition easy and to make it simple to understand, simple to implement changes to, simple for you to actually feel empowered to take back control of what and how you're eating in a way that doesn't box you in. It doesn't restrict you from living life on your own terms and doing what you'd like to be able to do, but instead enhances your ability to do that with a little bit of extra awareness and some, as we'll see, some habits that are actually pretty easy to form because you're probably doing many of them already in a slightly different context. You're going to learn how to make nutrition that much easier for you. And so if you're on this call in this workshop, you've probably felt overwhelmed by nutrition at some point in your life. You've probably have struggled with multiple diets. Maybe you tried a regimented diet and it worked for a period of weeks, maybe a couple of months, maybe you even saw some good results. But then chances are pretty good that it slowly started to creep back on. The scale started to go back up. You started to skip workouts. You found it more and more difficult to stick to the regimented plan you were given. And that is a problem that is pretty common among most people who are attempting to change their lifestyle habits is they can stick with those super structured restrictive plans for a time, but then something happens and it's no longer sustainable. The beautiful thing about the money method formula, the system for managing calories, is again, it piggybacks on habits you already have in a way that seem intuitive for your well-being. And that's how you manage your money. And we'll explore that more as we get going. But ultimately, I want for you to walk away from this with a simplified and reframed way of thinking about calories specifically, but also your nutrition as a whole. As we've been kind of discussing, the problem with all of these regimented diet plans, keto, paleo, the South Beach diet, the DASH diet, Weight Watchers, all these different things is they are telling you that there's a specific problem that exists, but not giving you the complete picture. And so the blunt truth of just the reality of nutrition is that you must learn how to manage your calories. This isn't a you should learn how to manage your calories. This isn't a, it'd be great if you learned how to manage your calories. If you want to regain control of your body weight and your body composition, if you want to lose body fat, if you want to build muscle, if you want to maintain a healthy lifestyle and stay at a spot where you feel confident in your skin, you must learn how to manage calories. There is no way around it. And that's the interesting thing about a lot of these diets is they in diet culture is they overcomplicate this simple truth. Keto is carbs are the enemy, so you must eat high fat, moderate protein. Paleo is processed foods are the culprit. So you got to eliminate processed foods from your diet and eat like our caveman and cave woman ancestors in order to have a healthy lifestyle and be able to manage your body weight. Carnivore diet is that carbs are the enemy, high protein, moderate fats. And so all of these diets are essentially going one step further because if you look at what those diets promise, going low carb is not inherently going to help you lose fat, but it could help you consume less calories. And therefore, by proxy of following a keto diet, you are controlling your calories. Paleo, eliminating processed foods. By proxy of eliminating processed, highly palatable foods, you're controlling your calories. So every popularized diet on the market that you may have tried or heard about ultimately aims to control your calories by manipulating something else. This is good news for you because those diets are now acting as the middleman to the thing you actually need to do to see results. And what we can do is we can eliminate the middleman entirely and just go straight to focusing on our calories. Because at the end of the day, your weight is going to be determined by your calorie balance, by how much you're consuming compared to how many you're burning. And that comparison, that calorie balance equation, burned versus consumed, leads to another challenge, which is that people hear the word calories and they tune out. It feels ambiguous. It feels foreign. It feels like a variable that is complicated and is going to be too much work to try to understand. And so many of us, that's why those diets are pleasing, because they simplify something that we feel like is complicated. But in the process, we're robbing ourselves of the ultimate control. And that's what we're going to give you back today. And why is it that people tune out the idea of calories? And it's the way that calories have been explained historically. So, and this is probably true for you in the way that you think about calories. Your guttural reaction is probably to view calories as fuel. And the analogy commonly used is that of a gas tank, like you would in your car. With your vehicle, you have to have a certain amount of gas in there for that vehicle to run. You have a tank and we fill it up. And the closer it gets to E, the greater the risk that your car will not operate any longer. And that fuel is necessary for the engine to actually produce the energy it needs to propel the vehicle forward. And so this analogy is common when we think about the way our bodies work. In that analogy, our body is the vehicle, and the food that we consume is the fuel. It's the gasoline that we put in our tank as a means to move about life. But this analogy doesn't quite work. Conceptually, we can all understand the analogy between the vehicle and the gas and our body and fuel as a means to create movement. But the challenge with that is there's a couple of overlapping things that don't quite match. For example, with your gas tank in your car, there is a maximum amount you can fill it up. And if you continue to try filling your gas tank beyond full, what happens is gas ultimately spills out of the side of your vehicle and makes a giant mess and becomes a hazard for you and everyone around you and is certainly no good. But that is all that happens, is that gas spills out. You can't add more gas to an already full tank. And this is problematic because that is not how our bodies work. The more fuel that we consume, there's not an upper threshold. There might be an upper threshold for what we can use based on our activity levels, but there is not an upper threshold for how much we can put inside of our tank. And that is the problem that many of us who struggle with body weight have, is we're consuming too much fuel, and that is hanging around our body in the form of body fat. And so that's why I don't like this analogy. I don't like the calories as fuel analogy because it doesn't solve the problem of making it understandable and simplified for how these things work. It's not as accurate as it could be. So with that, I want to propose a separate framework, one that will change how you view calories, and it could change everything for you with regards to managing your nutrition. But I want to start with a riddle. I'm something you can spend, save, or overspend. I add up whether you track me or not. Ignore me and I quietly pile up into debt. Manage me well and I buy you freedom. What am I? I want you to think about that riddle for a second and think about what your answer might be. Your first guttural reaction could be money. Money is something you spend. Money is something you save. Money is certainly something you can overspend. Money adds up, whether you're tracking it or not. If you ignore the amount of money you're spending, it will quietly pile up into debt. But if you manage your money well, it can buy you freedom. So money is the answer to that riddle. But it's not the only answer to that riddle. Because as I'm sure as you probably guessed, the answer to that riddle is also calories. If we go back for a moment, calories are something you can spend, there's something you save, and something you can overspend. Calories add up, whether you track them or not. And if you ignore your calorie intake, you can pile up into debt, which we'll see is actually what leads to weight gain. But if you manage your calories well, it can buy you food freedom. And that's the analogy that I want to leave you with today, is not calories as fuel, but rather calories as currency. Calories is a currency that we use to purchase energy, to purchase movement. And this is a much better analogy because it explains all the ways in which our nutrition can work really well for us to buy us that food freedom, but it also explains why we might really struggle to manage our nutrition. So this is the framework that I want us to keep for the remainder of this workshop, is that calories equal currency. Because the reality is that fat loss isn't a mystery. It's not magic. It's not genetic. Fat loss is math. And it works exactly the same as paying off credit card debt. This is the currency analogy. Because every day your body has a budget. It has a specific calorie goal that you need to meet. Depending on what your goal is, whether to lose weight, your body has a certain budget for that. To maintain your weight, your body has a certain budget. If you want to build muscle, your body has a certain budget for that. And just like credit card debt, if you spend too much of your calorie currency, you will go into debt. And debt is fat gain. The greater your debt, the more weight you put on. But if you spend exactly the amount of currency that you have, you break even. Nothing changes. You don't gain weight, you don't lose weight. And if you spend less than what your budget affords, that offers you savings that you can use to pay off debt that might exist. Here's how this works. If you are in a state where you are actively looking to lose body fat, you are currently in debt, and you need a calorie budget that is less than the amount that you are earning every day through movement, so that that extra that you offset is going towards paying off that debt. When you pay off debt, you are losing body fat. That's it. No tricks, no secrets. Fat loss works exactly like paying off credit card debt, because calories are currency. When you spend more than you make, debt piles up. When you eat more than your body burns, fat piles up. This is the truth we all have to sit with. And this is why it is imperative that you must, I said at the beginning of this workshop, you must be able to manage your calories. Just like you must be able to manage your finances. Because we know how difficult it can be once you're in debt to get out of it. It's no different with fat loss. But here's the good news. Just like paying off credit card debt, even though you might have to pinch pennies and save every spare dollar to put towards paying down that debt, once you've paid that debt, all of that penny pinching and all of that extra income you were putting towards that now goes back into your pocket. Now you have more flexibility, you have more freedom, you have the ability to spend that money the way that you would rather spend it. And that's exactly how it works with your nutrition. When you reach your goal weight and you've paid down your body fat debt, you get to eat more without putting on extra weight, so long as you stay within your new budget. But if you can learn how to do that, that is what gives you food freedom, more flexibility to go out and enjoy yourself. Have that cocktail, have that dessert, enjoy the holidays with your family without guilt, without stress, without anxiety. So I think we'd all agree that this is something we want to learn how to leverage, this concept of calories as currency, this paying down our body fat debt so that you can get to that food freedom state faster. Let's talk about how we can do that. There are 8 money strategies that are common for paying down debt that you can use. Copy and paste it into your diet to manage your calories easier and simpler. We're going to dive into a few of those here today. We're not going to have time to go through all 8 money strategies, but I do have them all in a special money method guide that everyone who's registered is going to get for free when I follow up with you all after tonight's workshop. So fear not, we will be able to go through all 8 money strategies. The first money strategy for paying down fat gain debt is you have to know your budget. You have to know what income you can work with. The best way to do this, because there's a number of ways that you can come up to your calorie budget. If you've never done this before, starting with a calorie calculator, which factors in demographics about you, your age, your height, your current weight, your activity levels, your lifestyle, that will help you come to a generalized starting point for what your daily calorie budget should be. And I've conveniently put here for you a QR code that you can scan. I wouldn't do it right now, but you can scan it, save it for later. It is our free calorie calculator on our website that you can use to get a rough idea of what your starting budget should be. Now, here's one thing important about this. Once you know your budget, whether you use a calorie calculator or you go from prior experience, it's important that you observe the changes over time because this will change. Just like imagine you work an hourly job. The number of hours might shift from one week to the next. Some weeks you work overtime, other weeks you work less. And so your income is going to reflect that. It's the same way with our budget. Our activity level shifts what our calorie budget can be. If we're less active certain weeks, our calorie budget is going to be a little less. So it's important that once we have our starting budget, we stick within it based on whatever our goal is, and we monitor the changes over time so that we know if we need to adjust the budget up or down. Nevertheless, if we want to work on paying down our fat gain debt, we need to know what budget we have to spend. Okay? And the best fat loss budget is one where your calorie deficit, how much extra you need to save to pay down your debt in a reasonable, sustainable way, very important, I acknowledge that. The best fat loss budget is going to factor that deficit in so that your daily budget, you can just stick within that number and not have to worry about carving any extra. It's already built into the number. And that's what that free calorie calculator is going to do for you. It's going to do all the work for you. You have to put in a couple of variables about you, and it will give you the number that you need to follow. Okay, but that is step one. That is money strategy one. We need to make a budget. Money strategy two, once we know our budget, once we know what we need to work within in order to start paying down, just like our finances, we need to track our spending. A lot of people don't like to hear this, but logging your food is one of the best predictors of long-term success in a fitness program. Even if it's not perfect, you need to know where your spending is going, whether that's your money, if you're paying down credit card debt, where the extraneous spending might go, right? The extra streaming service you probably don't need to be spending money on. Just like that, finances, we need to know where we're spending on our food. There's a couple of super easy ways to do this. There's many apps on the market now that make this incredibly easy to do. Some of my personal favorites, MyFitnessPal, it's the one we use inside of our coaching program with all of our clients. Still one of the best out there. Macros First is a little bit newer, but comes with a lot of really great features. Chronometer has more advanced settings that you can use for specific dietary needs. So if you're someone that has specific dietary needs, you're celiac, you're gluten intolerant, any number of dietary restrictions, Chronometer is great because it allows you to track the specificity of those things. And then Macro Factor is actually the one that I've personally been using. And I love Macro Factor because if you happen to put and update your body weight, it uses specific formulas to show you the difference between the scale fluctuations and your actual reflected body weight. So it helps control the up and downs a little bit if that's something you struggle with mentally. And I love that feature about it. One thing to note about these food tracking recommendations, the ones that have asterisks, those first two, MyFitnessPal and Macros First, are free apps, or at least they have free versions. The latter two are paid subscription, albeit not super significant, but it's something to factor in. If you're just getting started, I recommend trying one of the free versions until you get a handle on it. But ultimately, the most important thing is that you are tracking your food spending. Know where it's going. Here's the most interesting thing about this habit. This is the first thing we implement with our clients inside of our program. We find the majority of the time, once a new client in our program starts tracking their food without any intervention from us, no advice, no suggestions, no feedback, before we have a chance to do any of that, the majority of clients who start tracking their food start making better food choices, all on their own. And the reason is because they can see what they're doing. They can see where they're going over. It becomes very clear where we're overspending. And that's why it's important to track it. So once we know our calorie budget, We can find our preferred food tracking app so we can start seeing if we're sticking to that budget. That's money strategy number 2. Money strategy number 3, the next step once we begin tracking, once we have an idea of our spending history, just like with our finance, is to cut back on big expenses first. And in the nutrition world, there's a couple of key areas where this might exist. Alcohol, huge area of improvement for a lot of people. Many alcoholic beverages can have 200, 250 plus calories per drink. And if you're out for a fun night and you have 2 or 3 of those, in some cases, that's half a day's worth of calories. Often unnoticed and at least not factored in to the bigger picture. So alcohol is a big expense we can cut first. Fast food and other takeout. If you look at the history of your door dashing, we had one client pull up their DoorDash history and they realized they were spending over $400 a month on DoorDash delivery. We want to talk about getting out of fat gain debt. They're getting out of monetary debt too by just cutting back on their fast food expenditure. High calorie desserts, whether this is out when you're at restaurants or if it's just at home, the ice cream, the cookies, the chips, all the things you keep in the house that are incredibly high in calorie for a very small amount of food. Large portions, particularly when you're eating out. Especially in the US, there's something called portion distortion, which is the idea that restaurant portion sizes have grown so astronomically large that it actually has shifted what we think a normal portion size should be to the likes of 2 or 3 times more than what an average portion size should be. So cutting back on our portion sizes. The reason we want to focus on the big expenses, the areas that are sucking a lot of our calorie budget, is making a few small changes in these areas has an outsized impact on not only your nutrition management, but also on your results. Oftentimes, just reducing alcohol immediately allows a person to start seeing fast results. So that's money strategy number 3. We're going to jump ahead to money strategy number 6. I know I told you there was 8. We're skipping 4 and 5 today. Automating good decisions. People who are the best at saving money for retirement, for vacation fund, for emergency funds, the people who are best at saving this money from their income do so through automatic transfers. They set up a direct deposit so that a portion of their paycheck goes into a separate account that they then use for one of these items. And the reason it works so well is because if we leave it to us to consciously make the decision to save a portion of our paycheck, the vast majority of people save significantly less, or in most cases, nothing at all. But by automating that decision, people find they save more money and are left better off for it. It's no different with our nutrition. There are ways we can automate good decisions. We can prep meals ahead of time. We can keep go-to healthy snacks ready to go for those moments where we're rushed for time. We can keep tempting junk food out of the house. In our program, we talk about there's 5 laws of weight loss. You have to satisfy every one of these laws in order to see successful weight loss. And law number 4 is that access is stronger than willpower. If your environment is set up counter to the goals that you have, your environment will win every single time. And so if your goal is to lose fat, if your goal is to improve your eating, you need to set up an environment at home that makes that easier to do. And that's what we mean when we talk about automating good decisions. Because when the good choices are easy, you do not have to rely on willpower. And if you rely on willpower, you will fail. So an example of this could be you prep 3 lunches on Sunday. You make a big batch of chicken, rice, and vegetables. You store it in containers. And that way, you're not scrambling for takeout when you run out of time. You can just pull one of these meals out, pop it in the microwave, and be good to go. Okay? So we need to automate good decisions. The other money strategies that we won't be able to go into detail today, but again, these will all be listed in that guide you're going to get after today's workshop. Paying yourself first. Okay, this means focusing on a few key elements of your nutrition. The snowball method, finding the areas that have the outsized impact by making just small tweaks, the low-hanging fruit. Ending your weekend splurges. You'll be shocked how often people can be spot on with their nutrition Monday through Friday, but come Saturday and Sunday, they throw it all away with a few poor choices. And money strategy number 8 is to keep a cushion. Understand that emergencies happen. And just like it's beneficial to have an emergency fund with your finances, keeping a little bit of a cushion for calories, if you don't know how the rest of your day is going to play out, ensures that surprises don't derail you. So you'll be able to read in detail about those remaining 4 strategies in the free guide that you get at the end of this workshop. But here's the reality, because this is a common complaint that I see. If you're doing everything correctly and you're still not losing weight, you're sacrificing the foods that you love, you're sacrificing attendance at social events, you're reducing your drinking, you're exercising more even when you don't feel like it, and you're not seeing the results that you want. There's a few key reasons why that's probably happening. You're eating more than you think. If you're not losing weight, it is not a your body problem. It is a we are eating more than we think. And this isn't always your fault. Most of the time it's not. It's so incredibly easy to underreport calories because we forget about the small bites here and there, the snacks finishing our kids' plates, the small handful of the chips that we grab while we're preparing our dinner. Weekends might be wiping out your weekday deficit. Even one splurge, one meal out where you're not careful and you're in a fat loss phase, you're trying to pay down that debt, can still derail an entire week's worth of progress. And both of those things might lead to the fact that you're accurate most of the time. But it's small moments that derail you just a little bit that can prevent you from seeing change. And this is where it's the most difficult, because often the mistakes we're making are not egregious enough that we're gaining weight, but it's just enough over the budget that it's preventing you from having that extra savings to pay down your debt. And so you just stay the same. It's like paying the minimum payment on your credit card, and the interest rate all but cancels that payment out. So it feels like you're just perpetually making the same payment and not making a dent on the bigger goal. So we have to be consistent with all of our 8 strategies to make sure that we are managing our budget and our calories as accurately and as consistently as we can. Here's a couple of examples for you. We alluded to this earlier. We had a member in our program once say they were tracking their eating, they were sticking to their workouts, but they were not seeing results. And the complaint they gave me was, but I'm perfect all week. I should be losing weight. And the reality of her situation is that she was perfect all week. She was tracking to a T. She was staying within her calorie goal. She was getting enough protein. She was making healthy food choices. She eliminated eating out. But then Friday through Sunday, she would add an extra 2,000 calories from cocktails here and there, going out to brunch with her girlfriends, having date night with her husband. She wasn't going over enough to gain weight, like we just discussed, but it was enough to not see any progress, to not move the needle forward. Doesn't mean she has to give these things up permanently, but she did need to tighten up the weekend so that the scale could finally move. I want to share another personal example with you. I used to buy the Costco size peanut butter jars, family size jars. It's like 48 ounces. It's got 42 servings of peanut butter in it. I used to keep it in my house. Love peanut butter. And I used to have this habit where anytime I would walk through the kitchen, I would just take the tip of a spoon and I would just dip it in the peanut butter and just have a little bite. Didn't think anything of it. Clearly wasn't enough to make a dent on my calories for the day. Wasn't worth tracking. Didn't give it a second thought. And after a few weeks, I would do this consistently. And I realized that I wasn't seeing the scale change. I wasn't losing any weight. And I couldn't figure out why. I was working out 7 days a week. I wasn't going out to eat with my friends nearly as frequently. I was choosing low calorie meal options. And so I reviewed my food logs one week because I was tracking and I wanted to see what was going on. And here's the interesting thing about that family sized jar of peanut butter. I was going through an entire jar every single week. 42 servings of peanut butter, which, by the way, a serving of peanut butter, 2 tablespoons, is 200 calories. And I went back one week where I had eaten an entire jar and I looked at how many of these servings I actually tracked. These harmless servings. I want to let you take a moment and guess how many servings you think were actually on my log. Of the 42, how many I had documented of these little bites, harmless? The answer is 12. I had only logged 12 of the 42 servings of peanut butter that I was consuming that week. That means there were 30 unaccounted for servings of peanut butter, 6,000 extra calories over the course of a week that I was eating and not realizing it. It wasn't enough with all of my activity, not enough to cause me to gain weight, but enough to prevent me from losing it. I wasn't paying down my debt. I was making the minimum payment, but not making a dent. And I share that story to highlight the significance of being accurate, of being able to track our eating. If I wasn't tracking my servings, I wouldn't have been able to catch my error. And if I had been tracking better, I would have probably not making that mistake in the first place. So these money strategies work for managing our nutrition if we implement them correctly. We need to know our calorie budget. We need to track our spending. But ultimately, we need to understand how this works. Calories are currency. If we spend more than we have, we go into debt. And debt is the weight gain we're trying to avoid. If we want to pay down our debt, if we want to lose that body weight, we have to save and pay back the extra. And I alluded to this in the beginning, but I want to say it again. This is not forever. When you have credit card debt, there's a period where you have to cut your expenses. You have to pinch pennies and you have to do whatever you got to do to pay down that debt so it doesn't continue to impact your life. But once you pay off that debt, you can spend more freely. You earn that right. So debt payoff mode doesn't last forever, and neither does fat loss mode. It should be short term. And you're sacrificing in the short term to enjoy more freedom in the long term. Once you pay down your credit card debt, you have more freedom to spend the money on things that you actually enjoy because you don't have to save nearly as much. When you've paid down your fat loss debt, you earn more freedom to eat more freely, to go out more often, to still be mindful, but flexible. Because once you're at your goal, you get more wiggle room. And so if you implement these strategies, it will make your nutrition that easy, just like managing your finances. It takes work. You still have to put in effort, but it should not be confusing. And when you implement these strategies, I want you to imagine what is for you on the other side. Walking into your closet and everything hanging up fits. There's not a pair of jeans from years ago that you're just waiting to fit back into. You don't have to dread buying new outfits because you don't like the way any of it looks. You can go out and enjoy your favorite foods without guilt. You can be at peace with your body. That is the freedom waiting for you on the other side. I want to thank you guys for joining me tonight in the Money Method Workshop. We went through it pretty quickly today. I'm obviously going to send you the Money Method Guide, which is going to have in detail all 8 money strategies and how you can begin applying them to your diet. But the thing about managing your calories, this is just one element of 5 of what we call the Food Freedom Framework. This is our nutrition conceptualization framework that we implement with clients to achieve full food freedom. And what we talked about today is mastering the base layer. Layer number 1, calories. but I want to make sure you have all the insights and information you need to master all of the layers and more. So what I want to do for you, if you scan that QR code or visit that URL link, ateamfit.com/ff-bundle, this is a link to our food freedom bundle for 82% off since you joined me in this workshop tonight. What's included in this bundle is a series of courses. The first is our food freedom framework. It's going to explain the entire nutrition framework, all 5 layers, what matters for your nutrition, what's going to get you results, and how to do it simply and without gimmicks and without restriction. And it's going to teach you how to implement it into your life. You're going to get that training and the associated guide that goes with it. Not only that, you're going to get our social eating mastery course. That's going to cover strategies and insights you can take when you're out with friends or your spouse. You're going out to a restaurant, you're going to a bar, you're at a dinner party, you're at a holiday get-together. Especially now we're at the start of the holiday season. It's going to teach you how to navigate those situations. How can you enjoy your favorite foods without derailing yourself or putting yourself into greater debt? But we know what happens when we're in those social environments. Sometimes the people around us push a little too hard. They try to drink more, get us to drink more than we want or eat more than we want. They've become food pushers. So in addition to the food freedom framework and the social eating mastery course, you're also going to get the 5 scripts to shut down food pushers. These are 5 verbatim word for word scripts that you can use that use psychology to shut down food pushers so that it's not awkward, so that there's no conflict, and so that you don't have to give in and ruin your fitness plan because of the social pressure from somebody else. So you're going to get that training video and guide with all of the scripts laid out for you and an explanation for psychologically why each of them works, because you'll use different scripts for different scenarios. So you're also going to get the 5 scripts to shut down food pushers. But lastly, with the food freedom bundle, in addition to the food freedom framework, in addition to the social eating mastery course, and in addition to the scripts for food pushers, you're going to get the restaurant survival course. This is going to teach you strategies nutritionally, swaps, and changes you can make when you're at restaurants to better manage your calories. That comes with a video training and a written ebook guide that explains all the different ways you can begin to master going out to eat socially so that you don't put yourself into greater fat gain debt. You're going to get all 4 courses and their associated guides for 82% off if you scan that QR code or visit that link. Again, a special discount for you guys for being here with me today at this workshop. I hope this was helpful. I think I'm a little late, so we're going to wrap this up. Remember, calories is currency. If you overspend, you go into debt. If you save, you pay down your debt, you can achieve greater food freedom and peace with your body.